How you doing? Uh, I'm making a video here on traditional archery and instinctive shooting. Whether you're getting into archery for the first time or maybe you've shot a compound bow before and want to give traditional archery a try, I'm going to go over some of the basics. And I'm going to be talking specifically about shooting a recurve and specifically about shooting instinctively. To start out with, this is a recurve bow. Um, I got this on eBay. I made another video about that. But just recurve bows are cool. If you're thinking about getting into it, there's just something about the way they look, the way they handle, and the balance of them. This is 40 years old, and the craftsmanship, it's really a thing of beauty. And you can get them pretty cheap. This is, if you bought a new one, it would be like probably 340 bucks. I got this for 50. I just checked, and a lot of these bear grizzlies are going for around 130. So if you wanted to get one right away, you could go on eBay and probably get it for around that. If you were patient and waited, you could probably get one for under 100 bucks. But that's the first thing you're going to need is the recurve. And I just can't imagine getting started in traditional archery and not just falling in love with these recurves, because they're really cool. This is 45 pounds. When you get a recurve, I would recommend 40 to 45 pounds. That's heavy enough to hunt with in most states. And I'm going to say right from the beginning, I'm not using the bow to hunt with. I'm not shooting competitively. I just like to go out and shoot. For me, archery is like playing a video game. It's just an enjoyable way to spend time, and the traditional archery it's a lot more fun for me than the compounds, and the instinctive shooting is a lot more interesting way to shoot. Okay, so the first thing you need is a bow. There's only three other pieces of equipment that you really need to have. One is this arm guard. It goes on your arm like this and protects it. You got to have that. If the string hits your forearm, it hurts like hell. So I wouldn't even try shooting without an arm guard. They're not expensive, 10 or 15 bucks. The second thing you need is something to protect your fingers. When I bought that, I was going to buy a shooting glove, but my hands are too big. They didn't have one my size. I had a leather glove in the garage where I was missing the left hand. So what I did is I cut the little finger off and the thumb off, and I used those parts to reinforce these first three fingers, and I use that for my shooting glove. You need something pretty thick, which is why I had to cut those pieces of leather off. It's pretty low tech, but it works fine. I've used this for a year and a half. I'm perfectly happy with it. Okay, the third thing you need is a bow stringer. That's what I got right here, and I'm going to show you how to use it. The limbs on these recurve bows can get twisted, and you don't want that to happen. Your arrows don't go straight, and worse things can happen. And the most frequent cause of a bow getting twisted is someone stringing a bow who doesn't know how to string it and twisting the limbs while you're stringing it. A bow stringer makes it easy to string a bow and prevents that limb twisting. Okay, this is how you string a bow. I'm holding the bow straight up and down so you can see this is the bottom and this is the top. Now I always leave the string on the bow, but you can see on the bottom of the bow here, I've left it strung. The string's still in the notch. And on the top, I just pull the string off of there so it's loose. Okay, to string the bow, you put this boot part, the hard plastic part, on the part that's already strung on the bottom, just like this. Then the other end's usually got like a rubber wedge, and you put that on the other end, so it's on the other side of the bowstring like that. Okay, and I'm going to step over here. And then to string it, all you have to do is step on top of the stringer. Then I usually make sure this wedge is tight on there. As I pull it up, then you just pull it up. The string gets slack, so you can move it over the other end. And then I gently ease it down to make sure it's strung. Just take the stringer off and you're good to go. Really easy to do, but you definitely want to make sure you get a stringer. Okay, now I'm going to just go over a couple other basic things in this video. First of all, if you look at the handle here, you can see it doesn't look like what you would call a handle. You don't grab a recurve like you're grabbing a hammer. In other words, you're not going to grab it. You're not going to grab it like that. That's not the way you hold it. The recurve, it's got this groove here. So what you do is you're going to hold it like this. The bow's going to fit right in this part. You don't grip it hard. You just put your left hand, if you're right-handed, between your thumb and your finger, just right in there, and that's the way you hold it. You don't grip it hard. You don't hold it hard. The idea is your hand's relaxed. That does a couple of things. First of all, look at my arm. If I'm gripping it like that versus holding it like that, when I'm holding it like that, my arm can turn away a little bit, and that gets it out of the way of the bowstring when I pull it back. Okay? So that's the first basic thing. The other thing is knocking the arrow on the string. And there's two common ways that people shoot. This is the way I shoot. It's called 3 under. You can see there's a knock point on that string, little piece of brass. 3 under is you put 3 fingers underneath the arrow and you just come up to that knock point. That's the way I shoot, so I feel like that's the best way. The other common way is called split finger, which is like this, where you've got 1 finger above the arrow and 2 fingers below. People shoot both ways. Just pick the one you feel the most comfortable with. The other thing is I'm shooting what's called off the shelf. So I don't have any kind of arrow rest. I'm just shooting right off the shelf of the bow. That's the way I prefer to shoot. And even though this arrow's got plastic vanes, with this bow shooting off the shelf, I always shoot with real feathers. Okay, that's kind of the beginning, the basics of how the bow works and getting set up. Next, I want to actually go out to a range and talk about instinctive shooting. So part 2 of this will be out at the range. See you later.